He was a man without podcast spirit.
What do you mean I don't have any podcast spirit? I'm a busy businessman in the big city. I don't have time for podcast spirit.
But on a fateful trip home, everything changed.
What do you mean I have to go to my grandfather's podcast farm all the way upstate? It's the day before the big meeting.
There, he'd learn the spirit of podcasts.
I think I'm a little old to believe in the Podcast Republic app, don't you think?
But under his nose this whole time was the free solution to his problems.
I don't care about the big meeting anymore. All I care about is you and me and favoriting my podcast so they stream instantly to my device.
This holiday season,
Merry Podcast to all in the free Podcast Republic app.
available on the Google Play Store. Do you hear that, Andrew?
Hear what, Trip?
The jingling of jingle bells. The holiday season is upon us. And this holiday season, there's one important thing for you to do.
Get your letter to Santa?
That, and then also...
Hang the stockings by the chimney with care.
Yes, also that. And then visit patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and check out our rewards tiers to find the one that's right for you. It makes a great holiday gift to yourself. And who on your list is more important than you?
What a great gift! And best wishes from Dissecting the 80s.
At the $2 level, you get the monthly Bag of Soup Sentinel, which gives you a sneak peek at what's coming up. At the $5 level, you get a bonus episode on a quarterly basis. The $10 level, for 12 months, you get to pick an episode. There's an $88 level, you get a vinyl recording of the show. Visit patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and check out all the fine things. Happy holidays. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers. And with me, as always, is a man who knows that if you're making a Christmas movie for the ABC television network, you better have a witch named Jezebel in it. The Macho Mandrew.
Andrew Lano. I thought you were going to say you better call Dolly Parton, because I do know that fact.
Yeah, indeed. Did you catch the name of the witch? Because I looked it up on IMDb, and it is... Okay, all right. Well, IMDb said Jezebel, but I don't have any recollection of a character actually saying Jezebel.
Well, because I thought the first time someone calls her that, like at our introduction, I thought someone was just calling this woman a Jezebel, and I was like, that's a very Dolly Parton movie insult.
Yes, agreed.
But no, her name was just Jezebel in this very confusing, weird movie.
Yeah, no, it's very weird. So we're talking about Smoky Mountain Christmas, which was an ABC direct-to-television movie that aired in 1986. You can find the whole thing on YouTube. We always forget to say that at the top of the show.
An American musical fantasy comedy film.
Yeah. So I had a picture in mind of what this movie was going to be before we started. What were you thinking as we, fired this one up?
This movie straddles the line between like children's fantasy and like Hallmark, big city goes to the small town feel. And I thought it was just going to be the big city, small town Hallmark movie. And then all of a sudden there was this other fantasy magic. I'm just going to say it's magic. There's magic in this movie and it makes no sense.
There's literally magic in this movie. Yeah, no.
I was like, this is just going to be like, big town, like big town star realizes small town's better, Christmas, saves Christmas.
Yes. Yeah, so I was thinking, like, Dolly became big playing someone who had gotten to be a huge star and then was, like, visited their hometown and discovered the real magic was there the whole time. Cue end credits, kissing a man in front of a Christmas tree. My
brain was like, the town doesn't have any money, so she's going back to do a concert to raise money and that kind of... I went there because that's usually, like, with Dolly Parton, that's where my brain goes. Like, what funds is she raising this time?
Yeah. It's not that at all. It's extremely very weird. We watched A Smoky Mountain Christmas. You know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's Dolly Parton. Something's gotta be done about Dolly Parton.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott.
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega power, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So we open this movie on, it's Dolly Parton and she's shooting a music video.
I wrote, this is a weird music video for a country song. And then the movie says the same thing 2 seconds later.
Yes, which I appreciated. But also, it's like a country song in lyric, but it has like a beat.
Yeah, it's like sort of rock and roll-y.
Yeah, but like also sort of hip-hop-y,
Yeah, there were some hip-hop elements to it.
Like old school, Cool and the Gang type beat. And she's not enjoying it. She's like, this doesn't make any sense for this song. It's a country song, la la la, which all makes, good sense. It's all smart things she's saying. And her agent's like, Dolly, baby, 90 days. We put out the album and we go home. You do whatever you want. 90 days. You can do this. And I'm like, well, this is a weird guy that she's hanging out with.
Because there's a point when he's like, can I tell you what I think you should do? And she's like, please, that's part of your job. And I was like, oh, like they're friendly. And he's like, finish the album, then go on vacation. And I was like, oh, this is not I don't know what relationship I'm supposed to think you have. Because later, he fully figures out what happened, and the police are like, no, you idiot, she's clearly been kidnapped.
Yeah. This movie gets, is the
it's
buck
like
wildest,
an adult
I think.
Home Alone with magic.
But, every 5 minutes, some other big, ridiculous thing would happen in the movie that I was like, oh, wow, we're doing that. Huh? Oh, we're doing that? Oh, we're doing that? And it never stopped doing that for me. Wait, I was expecting to not like this movie because it was going to be just a boring, pap Christmas movie. But I think I like it. I really genuinely have a hard time figuring out how to feel because it is just so crazy.
I enjoyed watching it. It's just banana pants on your head.
Yes. And the idea that this was the major motion picture movie of the week on ABC is crazy town.
Well, I mean, it's Dolly Parton and it's magic. So I guess that's kind of my problem is it needed...
Plus Lee Majors, who's at the time a big name. He was a $6 million man.
He was very handsome. I feel like the movie just needed to dip to either side of is this a Hallmark movie or is this a magic movie? Instead of trying to go straight down the middle.
Yeah, it's a weird movie in that it totally has magic, and that is just not something that you normally have in a movie.
And not even magic exists. It's magic exists and there's a witch in town. She's walking into the bar again.
Yes, everybody is so chill with the fact that there's a literal witch that lives in their town and sometimes comes down to mess with the sheriff.
I was like, we aren't exploring anything that I want to explore right now. And the crazier thing, so the town doesn't care that there's a witch, but then the local legend that the kids talk about isn't about the hill witch. It's about the mysterious mountain man.
Yes. Okay. We'll get to these
I'm
things.
sorry. There's so much.
It's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. We'll just get the train back on the tracks a little bit. So we meet Dan Hedaya. I think that's how you pronounce his name. People might know him as Cher's father in Clueless.
Oh! That's how I know him.
Nothing brings me more joy than watching you realize the thing that I said is the thing for you. It's such... I figured you knew that already, and I could see as I was saying Cher's father from Clueless, as it was coming out of my mouth, your brain started to connect, and it was like one of those fast montage shots in Edgar Wright movie where it's like...
It's like when the police are doing the side-by-side trying to match faces. And it was
yes,
positive identity.
Yes,
because he sounded so familiar and he looked so familiar, and I was like, I don't know where I know him from.
Yes, big time character actor, has been in a ton of things, but he plays a sleazy paparazzo type, and he is on the trail of Dolly Parton, trying to snap his pic of her and whatever. So
he gets a grappling hook and tries to climb up to her window. And then her dogs chase him, so he ends up knocking on her window asking to be let in.
And she just does it. And if this happened to me, I would be pushing him off the ledge by the forehead. You know what I mean?
I'm grabbing a hatchet and just chopping at the rope. Down you go.
Yeah. Or I'm just gonna wait there and see what happens.
You can't hold on forever
because you don't have that much upper body strength. Look at you. You're Dan Hedaya. Come on. Hedaya. I'm going to go with Hedaya. It's probably wrong, but I'm just going to say Hedaya. I apologize if he's out there listening.
And then after she lets him in, he starts snapping pictures of her bedroom because she's in her room, in a bathrobe.
Yes.
And she's like, would you knock it off? And
He's an absolute 5-star
goes to
creep.
get her butler, I guess, but has to leave the room and leaves him alone, so he figures out that her plan is to sneak away.
Yeah, because she had been on the phone with an old friend being like, hey, do you still have that cabin? I need to get away. I don't have any family left, which is like really kind of a huge bummer that they
But they
sneak in
didn't
there.
dwell on it, because I was like, it leads me to believe that it's like been a while since her family has been gone.
So we cut to Dolly driving this old pickup truck.
Oh, you
down
missed
the
Chekhov's
highway,
broken glass.
Oh,
As
sorry,
she's
yes.
leaving, she like turns and the neck of her guitar case smashes into the glass door of her like balcony, and I went, oh well, people are gonna think she's kidnapped now, even though the broken glass would be on the outside of the window, which is a classic brain teaser.
Come on, watch CSI for once. Jeez Louise.
Or read Encyclopedia Brown.
Right, yeah. So anyway, like I said, we're driving down the highway with Dolly in a truck, and the sheriff pulls her over, and he is also a 5-star
I
creeper.
was disgusted.
He's like really hardcore hitting on her and being like, why don't you take them sunglasses off so I can see the eyes?
He reminds
behind
me
them?
of the
And it's
demons
like,
in The Bad Place that are like, you'd be so much prettier if you smiled. Why don't you take off those sunglasses? Show off your pretty eyes, toots.
Yes. Yeah, see also like 3/4 of
I
men
know.
everywhere. Yeah, but he is like a world-class creep. Dolly gets
She's got
away
her.
from him.
She's
just by,
driving
like, you know,
with
talk
a
to him.
headscarf on, a la Tippy Hedren and the Birds, by the way,
Yes, it's so amazing. I'm glad
to
you
cover
pointed that
her
out.
big ass
It's really
like
ridiculous.
fuck off 80s hair. That's literally
Yes.
her head, and then an additional head of hair on literal head length of hair on top, all around her hair, like a halo. It's beautiful.
Yes. But this is like the wildest turn of the movie. There are many, but this is the one that I was like, I'm sorry, what's happening now? She drives away, and then we hear like a weird noise. Yeah, and it's a horse. And we turn, the camera turns, and we see this woman astride this horse start talking to the sheriff and being like, how dare you talk to another woman? Don't you know you're spoken for? And I'm like, wait, what? Where did this woman come from on a horse? And it turns out she's an actual witch.
And her magic is never clearly defined.
It is unlimited power that
But
she
also-
has. She is basically Thanos.
She is Thanos, but also no one reacts, so I couldn't tell if she was actually casting spells or she was a crazy witch woman, like hill woman. Because like, there's no lighting effect or like cheesy, added in post lightning or like people being
Right.
like,
Or even just a sound.
there's nothing. So she just like talks in rhymes, and then people are like, that witch woman's at it again. And I was like, oh, is she just crazy?
Yes. There's a scene later that takes place in a bar where she breaks a bunch of glass, and the bartender, instead of being like furious, he's like, gotta stop using
Gotta
glass.
start using switch
Like,
to plastic.
Everyone is so chill with the fact that a witch lives near their town and just like periodically decides to do evil. Like, is she snatching children?
I don't know. It seems like the only thing she's interested in is the sheriff. And plot twist,
But,
no
like,
one else
there's
is. So I don't know why she's fighting so
Yes!
hard. You're the only one in this race.
I was waiting for a revelation where the sheriff basically made a deal with her that was, you get me elected as sheriff and I will be yours forever.
Would have been
kinda
better.
deal. Yes, because there's so much talk in this movie about like, oh, you got an election coming up. Oh, you're the sheriff, but maybe not for long. And I was waiting for the revelation that the Hill Witch and the sheriff were intrinsically linked because of whatever deal that they
No,
had
she was
made.
just into him, I guess.
So we get to the cabin, and Dolly comes in, and she's like, oh, squirrel stew. She thought of everything. And the bed's, like, made up. And I was like,
Squirrel
you know what?
stew?
Good for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not my first choice, but good for you, Dolly. I also was thinking, so part of the reason, I don't know why this popped in my head with squirrel stew, but it did. So that's what we're going to talk about it. Part of the reason we're doing this movie is because there's that new Dolly Parton influenced movie on Netflix. I'm sure she's in it. We haven't watched it yet, but Dumplin'
Dumplin' with an
I think it's
apostrophe.
called. Yeah. And she did all the music for that, and so
The new cover of
Parton was
Jolene
like, oh,
with
perfect
Strings
time.
is amazing. If you haven't heard it, it's on YouTube.
Oh, nice. But I was thinking about how she is such a good songwriter that situations that she has certainly not experienced in her actual life, she writes good songs about it. I was having a conversation at work recently, and someone was talking about, the song that they put on if they're like having a tough time getting out of bed in the morning and like you got to go to work and all that. And they were talking about, I don't remember what song they said it was, but I was like, oh, for me, that's definitely.
I was literally thinking, I was like, oh, they said 9 to 5, right?
Yeah. No, she didn't. And she was like, wait, the Dolly Parton song? And I was like, yeah. She's like, are you making a joke? And I was like, no, it's a great song for when you don't feel like going to work. Like, it's the anthem of people who don't want to go to
Literally.
work. And she was like, yeah. And so she thought that was really funny. But then it made me think, as I was, pondering this later, she wrote this amazing anthem for the 9-to-5 workday. There's like no chance she ever worked a 9-to-5 job. And I'm not saying Dolly Parton didn't have jobs, because she certainly had jobs.
I don't believe she ever was in an office. I know she was really hooked because she was like dirt floor poor.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying she did. I'm not trying to say like Dolly Parton never worked. Like, she obviously worked and had jobs and did things, but there's almost no way she worked a 9-to-5 job, like a traditional 9-to-5.
I don't believe so in my knowledge of Dolly's life.
Well, she just became super successful as like a teenager, 20-something. Like, there just wasn't a time for that. Yeah, so she was like, I'm sure she worked at a store or did a thing. Like, I'm not, again, but it's just amazing that like this song that is such a beautiful anthem for that type of job, especially if like you don't love your job. And it's like, oh, she has like literally no experience from which to draw on. I mean, not that like My Boss Is a Jerk is all that
she
like
played
tough
it on
of
the
a
movie
theme
screen.
to get. Yeah. I don't know.
Well,
I found that really
Jolene is a combination of a woman she met, a woman who came up to her at a meet and greet, and a bank clerk. They're not like Jolene was the name of the woman who came up to the meet and greet, and she liked her name, and then the description of Jolene comes from a bank clerk at the bank.
Okay. Because like I could totally see her writing a song about someone cheating on her or whatever. That's like a fairly universal life experience. So many of her songs that I know are pretty universal, but it made me think, it's like, oh my gosh, there's no way she actually experienced this. Anyway, we're eating squirrel stew, and at this point I'm like,
Snow White and the
it's
Seven
Snow
Dwarfs.
White and the Seven Dwarfs. Yes, like the seven orphan children come piling into the cabin, and it's like this bizarre mishmash of ages. Did you notice who the youngest girl was? The little sister from Monster Squad.
Really?
Who has to do the virgin thing because the other girl turns out not to be a virgin. Spoiler. See our Monster Squad episode for more.
I didn't catch that.
Wonderful movie.
Huh.
Yeah, I recognized her voice, which is crazy town.
Oh,
but she
she
said a
did
word
sound
that
very
I really
familiar.
recognized. And I was like, who is this kid? And then I started looking up all the kids, and she was the only one that really acted much. Ashley Bank is her name.
We also get our first glimpse of these beautiful commercial cuts where
Yes.
it's a freeze
really
frame
great.
and then it pulls out into a like Christmas frame, which pulls out even further into a page of a book, and then the book closes and we fade to black, and then
Yes.
it fades back in and the book opens on a new picture and it zooms
Yeah.
into that picture and we start again, and it was
Yeah.
so beautiful to see.
But it doesn't do it at every break, which I thought
Very
was so
bizarre. It made me want to see what commercials we would have seen with this kind of stuff.
I would totally have watched the full 2+ hour version of this with all the 80s commercials intact, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Ladies, is your hair not right for your husband? Try Pantene.
So at this point in my notes, I write, if this movie ends with Dolly adopting 7 children, I'm going to lose my shit.
Well, it does, but she doesn't do it alone. It's not like Dolly Parton, single mother, raises these children. It's like Dolly Parton, her new
It's
man,
still
and
pretty-
the paparazzi who's now a good guy.
The idea, you think that it's like a weird trio
I think I think
going
it's
on?
mainly Dolly and Mountain Man, but I think he's coming around like the fun
Yes.
uncle, like, let me take the kids to practice or whatever.
He gets a job as a paparazzo in whatever
Are
Smoky
they
Mountain
staying
town
there,
this
or are they
is.
moving back to her place in LA?
Well, so like Lee Majors, let's put a pin in that and let's bring that up at the end of the movie.
It's weird because
I
we
would love
both
to have that
enjoyed this
discussion with
movie,
you.
and it's so
Yeah,
it's
but
over. We both enjoyed this movie, and it's so over the rails of a conversation already.
Right, but I also don't know that I enjoyed it so much as I was bewildered by it in a like amused fashion. I'm not sure where I actually fall, if I'm being 100% honest.
Dolly is full on drag queen mode that we like. The Dolly you think of when you think of Dolly Parton that like is essentially a drag queen is in full effect in this movie. She's got giant hair at all times, perfectly coiffed. Her waist is cinched. She looks like she's padded. Like she looks like not a human, like a Barbie doll.
Yeah, and I also wonder how she is making any of this happen in a shack with no running water, but that's beside the point.
Oh, I didn't even think about the running water. They didn't even show having one of those like pump things like on a dock.
Yeah, they never show a kitchen, so I can only
Show a
assume,
stove.
but it just doesn't seem... They do, but it's like a wood stove.
Oh yeah.
The perfect for making stew.
And warming your socks after the snow.
Which also, why is it always stew in these movies? Why is it anytime you come upon a small thing that's secluded, whether it's in the woods or in the snow or in the whatever, it's always stew. Like, none of these people are like eating, I don't know, anything else. It's always
I
a
think
stew.
it's 'cause it's like a hearty thing. It warms you up. It feels good on a cold day.
Sure. But like soup does that. I guess soup in a movie is tougher to deal with because of all the
Probably.
slurps.
Yeah, and also like it's runnier. With this, you just have to fill a pot with a bunch of crap and then put enough liquid in it so it looks like there's water.
I guess. Yeah. No, I just always even that Ewok movie we did. They were eating stew.
Oh, that's right. I blocked that out.
It's like we're on a different planet entirely. Still, we get to a cabin. What's inside? Oh, a bunch of stew. A nice burbling pot of stew. So we cut to like the kids are all doing their random chores for the house, and one of them has a rabbit, and Dolly's like, "Oh, let me skin that rabbit for you." And the older kid is like, not having any of this Dolly Parton hanging out with us nonsense, and he's like, "Absolutely not." And she says something like,
I learned to skin a rabbit so fast you'd think there was a zipper on it.
Yes. So he's like, just not having it at all. So she, on the spot, writes up a song called Look on the Bright Side, and is like, as she's singing this song, she keeps calling out to him like, "Hey, are you listening to this? This is for you. Look on the bright
Life's gonna
side."
get better if you just, hey, you listening over here? If you just keep up with what you're doing, the song's for you.
Made it special just for what you might need.
I don't know how I would handle myself if Dolly Parton just like on the spot wrote a song to help me with whatever problem I was currently dealing with.
But I just love, so earlier in the movie, she talked about how she was feeling like writer's block and couldn't get it. The minute she's at this cabin with these orphan children, she's just like, she's literally on the spot writing a
She's
song.
Maria
just, like,
from The
pours
Sound
out
of
of her.
Music. She's like, oh, my guitar?
Yes.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
If Dolly Parton sang Wonderwall in this movie, I would be so happy.
Anyway. And then so this is where the kid starts screaming about Mountain Dan, who I was like, oh, it's this movie's rock salt neighbor / pigeon lady.
Can we talk about, I just watched Home Alone. I'm sorry, this is a tangent.
first
But
one?
can we talk about the inefficient, the inefficient manner with which this man is spreading salt on this sidewalk? He has a 18-inch shovel and a 18.5-inch trash can. You cannot get an adequate amount of salt on this shovel. He dips that shovel an eighth of an inch into the salt bucket or trash can and then like sprinkles it. And he's like a kid with a fun dip. Like, if you're trying to salt a sidewalk, you need a bucket or a quart-sized container or like a large vessel in which to scoop it up and shake it out. He's putting sand down or salt down basically a single grain at a time.
I never thought about that.
I couldn't get over it. I was watching the movie with Mom and Dad, and I was like, wait a minute, rewind this, please. What is he doing? Why is this the thing?
Also, he lives in that neighborhood, right? That
Yeah.
rich-ass neighborhood doesn't pay someone else
Yes.
to come salt their sidewalks?
Yeah, I always got the impression that they were trying to say that, like, he bought his house, like, before the other people moved in. So, like, he's the last of the non-gentrified homes.
Gotcha. Okay. He doesn't have marble columns.
No, he has just, like, a nice house that he, worked really hard for at a factory. And then, like, all these rich assholes moved in with their tech jobs or whatever the hell and just squeezed out all of his neighbors. But he's like, I'm going to die in this house, you sons of bitches.
And then it became Monster House.
Yes.
We get another instance of
So-
Santa doesn't raise the dead kid.
Well, I loved how they go around the room and is like, what is everybody wishing for this Christmas? And every single one of these kids has a Santa.
No, that's what
wish.
she
Like,
said. She
none of
said,
them
what
wants-
would you, like, let's pretend we're at the North Pole. What would you want to do? It was
Oh,
it
I
was
missed
Santa
the pretend.
specific.
I thought it was, what would you ask Santa for? And I was like, wait, why do all these kids have such specific Santa-centric
No, the
wishes?
question was, because they saw Mountain Dan and freaked out, and she was like, well, let's pretend we're at the North Pole.
Yeah, yeah,
What would you want to do if you were there? And they're all like, feed the reindeer, meet Mrs. Claus, ride the sleigh. And the one girl goes, say Merry Christmas to my mom.
Yeah, that's the Monster Squad
Yeah.
girl. But mostly I was wondering how all of these orphan kids still managed to believe in Santa, given the fact that like they probably got a hard lesson in there,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, because the orphanage owners didn't like children, so there's no way they were keeping that magic alive.
Right. It's
We
bizarre.
cut back to that one magic Christmas moment where they're like, "Hey, poor girl, is Santa gonna visit you this year?"
Right. And you're just like, this is true evil in child
That's not
form.
the Santa. Hashtag not my Santa.
Yeah. So Dolly starts singing a Santa-related song, and this is my favorite of the songs in the movie because the kids start singing along, but they cut to clearly a studio version of this with like a children's choir in the backing vocal. So it's these 7 children somehow sound like 42 kids.
And I liked the songs in this movie because they were all like maybe a minute long at the most, and they're sweet and cute, and they're in and out, and they get the job done, and that's it.
They're almost like the songs in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh yeah,
Where they're practically
I was
jingles.
gonna say, they're basically hit clips.
It's a verse and a chorus hit clips. Oh man, what a terrible
Right?
idea!
Do you want to listen to a tinny 30 seconds of your favorite song through one headphone?
And each of the songs cost like several dollars. It's
Each of the
crazy
parts
world we
of
lived in
songs.
the 90s. Right. So one of the kids is sick, and Dolly's like,
Yeah, the coughing kid climbs right into bed, and I'm like, my first.
Yeah. She coughs like in
I
her
was
mouth.
just in Disney, and every time a child coughed near me, I was like, I did the like white suburban mom sigh.
This kid coughs in her mouth, like into her mouth.
And she's like, "Oh, your cold's still going on."
So she takes her into town to see the doctor, who's also a vet. And I realize, like, this is what they do in mafia movies. So maybe these kids just have, like the mafia movies, whenever someone needs to get, like, a bullet taken out, they go to a veterinarian.
Oh.
Because it's like, you can do this work, but you'll keep it on the hush-hush. Here's a pile of money. And all I could think about was these orphan kids, like, so dedicated to keeping up this ruse that they go to a veterinarian's office. Is like, hey, horse drugs are they like find a stray cat and they're like, she's got a bad cough. We need cat medicine.
They smack it at coughs.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, yeah, it's not doing it now, but it was doing it earlier. Can we get some cat cough medicine?
It reminded me of the doctor situation in Trial and Error. Trial and Error? Yeah, that show on NBC. So the kids don't want Dolly to take the little girl to the doctor because I guess they assume the doctor will ask questions and realize she's an orphan and take her away. And I don't know what exactly Dolly's plan was, but I was like, I guess she could just be like, hey, I'm passing through town with my daughter. She's sick.
That's exactly what she says.
And so she's like, okay, cool. And he gives her prescription and they leave. I guess in the 80s, no one needed to see ID because she makes up a fake name.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to necessarily show a copy your ID if you're not under arrest. It's a
To
complicated
a doctor?
thing, but
That's what I mean, like at the doctor's office.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about
at
the
the
sheriff
doctor's
still.
office. I feel like at one point they'd be like, all right, so can I see some identification, woman with a child that we've never seen before?
Yeah. And I love the doctor / veterinarian being like, around here you go broke if you only treated the 2-legged people. And I was like, that is surely not true.
Then I guess there are more cow than people. And so my joke about small towns stands.
Yeah. But also, like, gotta be 2 different people for these 2 different jobs. This man did not go to both veterinary school and doctor
And fight in a war.
Yeah, too many things that this man's claiming to
So
have done.
as they're leaving, Dolly's like, I heard it's good luck to rub Santa's beard. And my brain went, like a mall Santa? Like a Santa who asks you for Christmas? This is weird. I haven't heard that, Dolly. And so she like puts the girl up in the sleigh, and it's like a fake, like a body Santa, like a Santa animatronic. But how would you describe it? I feel like
It's a Santa decoration.
sure, a Santa decoration. And so the girl rubs her beard, and the cop's like, that little girl wasn't with you when you came into town. And she's like, she was asleep in the back. It's cool. It's all good. And he's like, you look mighty familiar. And it's just the most uncomfortable interaction an adult man has had
like I said,
with a little girl on camera.
he's a 5-star creep. Yeah, he's a 5-star creep. That's like I said, he's a 5-star creep.
And this is where I started to get confused because I was under the impression that this was like Dolly's hometown, kinda, or like the neighboring town, and yet not a damn person in this town knows who she is.
I also thought it was that, but I think the whole point of it was that it wasn't that. She wanted to like get away, so it's this remote cabin that her friend's family
Okay.
had.
But even still, I think it's bizarre that no one in this small town knows who she is when the idea like that we were presented with is that she's basically Dolly Parton. Like she is at that level of stardom.
She's a huge star. Yes. Yeah, I don't get it at all. It's really a bizarre choice. But I guess like otherwise it would be a problem for the movie.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think they probably just should have made her a less big star.
Yeah. Yeah, she's like up and coming or something like that. So we go to the bar and the sheriff's deputy is like trying to convince him to put Christmas overlay on the police lights and just like drive around to give people the Christmas spirit, which is a weird,
which
dumb
to me is
thing.
like the epitome of small town. There's no crime here.
Yes. Like we don't need to have both of you working at the same time type.
Yeah,
small
exactly.
Town. So this witch shows up while they're mid-conversation, and all the glasses in the bar tilt to like a 45-degree angle while she's in there, which is really just totally
I realize
strange.
she kind of reminds me of Madam Satan from the new Sabrina show on Netflix.
I guess so.
She
Yeah,
got the
I
big
can see
hair
that.
and everything, and she walks in, and once again, nobody cares that there is literal magic being done in front of them by an actual textbook witch.
They seem bored by it. They're like, ugh, here comes Jezebel again. Better hold on to your glasses. She's going to break them all.
They act as though it's like a child being like, you want to see my tap dance routine? And then just does
it's
it.
Crazy.
Like, I wish I lived in a town like that where magic was so commonplace. It was just like, let me pick up my friggin' Eggs Benedict so she doesn't flip the plate.
Right. It's totally bizarre. So like I said before, she breaks all the glasses. The bartender's like, guess I gotta switch to plastic. We cut to the house, the cabin rather, and Dolly and the kids are like decorating for Christmas.
And Dolly likes the kids, and the kids like Dolly, and it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarves.
Yep, and we get another song here, the snippet.
Yeah. And she's playing the guitar with these like 1.5-inch nails.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous looking. Cut to nighttime, and the witch shows up and starts like whispering her name outside the house.
This was another moment where like the magic didn't make sense. I was like, what is Dolly seeing that like makes her want to go? It should have been like the witch should have like transformed into Dolly's mom or something, or you know, her manager or one of the kids. Like there should have been a physical change so that Dolly would make sense when she's following her.
Yeah, absolutely. But she gets hypnotized and almost falls off a cliff. And then Lee Majors shows up and like shakes her awake.
Yeah, he like scoops her up and takes her back to his camp, and he's like, "I know who you are. Also, drink this tea."
Yeah, and then she starts going on and on about like, "Oh yeah, my crazy grandmother believed in witches. She used to wear a necklace," and he's like, she used to wear a necklace to ward them off, and he's like, "You mean like this one?" She's like, "Oh, you're an idiot too, huh?" And it's like, wow, this interaction is real weird all of a sudden.
I guess Dolly's from the big city now. She doesn't believe in the magic that everyone else believes in anymore.
Yeah, and can we also pause to say the idea that liking Christmas is exclusively the domain of people who live in towns with populations below 600 is just the most asinine thing to me. I'm not trying to yuck other people's yum. I do not understand
I don't think that's what
why
this
that
movie
is
was about.
No, I know. This is about the Hallmark thing. It occurred to me that like it's just such an odd choice. This movie is not that, but that's why
it is a weird choice, especially when you consider that like New York City is a Christmas time destination for, you know, Christmas themed entertainment and the big Christmas tree and window shop and the window displays at Christmas time and ice skating.
Right. Anyway, so Lee Majors takes her back to her cabin, and meanwhile, Dan Hedaya is like trying to hunt her down, and there's like a weird interaction with the witch and Dan Hedaya that's kind of just like utterly bizarre. He gets kind of like lost in the woods here.
Yeah, because the bartender's like, here's a pillow to ride the donkey up the mountain.
So they go like, you know, have their little tete-a-tete. Meanwhile, it's like a day or two later, Lee Majors shows up at the cabin, and the kids hold him at gunpoint while they make him empty his bag, which all he has in there is a cake.
The littlest girl is giving
the
orders, like, you come in slowly, mister.
Yeah, it's really a hoot.
It's like in a video game where you enter like a hostile town, and they're like, hey, you should empty all your weapons into this box here. Press Y.
Yeah. And then you're like, well, this is surely going to be a problem for me in 3 minutes when someone tries to kill me, but okay. Meanwhile, he's just like slowly pulling out this wrapped package, and I thought it was presents for the kids, but it's a fruitcake. Yeah, it's a fruitcake baked in a bunt pan, which is like, really, Lee Majors, in your little tiny cabin you have a bunt pan?
I don't remember
That's how
seeing
you cook?
him in a cabin. I remember seeing him at a campfire.
Oh, you're right. They are sitting around a campfire.
So he just throws that over the campfire. So
where did he bake this cake? He baked a cake in a bunt pan at a campfire. He's really
he went and bought a
magician,
panettone.
Lee Majors.
I also don't know what day it is. I don't know if it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or the week before Christmas Eve, because there's not been any title cards to like tell me what day it is, which would have been helpful.
Yeah, it really kind of drops the ball on all of that stuff. So Lee Majors gets a little like close with the kid. He's like, "Oh, let me show you a better nut there, kiddo," and stuff like that. And the kid's still not having it, but he lets Lee show him like a trick, and it seems like he makes a knot yo-yo.
Yeah, it's weird.
The kid is like throwing it up and down out of his hand. It's a very odd thing.
And now that makes the kid like Lee Majors.
Yeah, of course.
The paparazzi man starts asking around and finds Lee Majors. I guess Lee Majors does live in a cabin because we see him in a cabin here.
Yes, he has the stew.
This is
Lee Majors has the stew.
It's his turn for stew.
There's just also, it's just a different stew, but yes.
Because the paparazzi is like, "Hey, you seen this woman?" And he's like, "Nope, don't know her. You probably should stop looking for her. Maybe she doesn't want to be found. Maybe she wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a monster."
Yeah, I like it. I like the cut of his
I
jib.
do too. And this is where I was realized the paparazzi has not been as important as I thought he would be. Like,
yeah, I thought he was going to be like the linchpin.
Yeah,
of this thing.
and then I was like, oh, maybe the witch is going to be, but then she isn't either. I was like, maybe there isn't one central bad guy. They like spread it out over 3 or 4 people and didn't give any of them enough screen time.
Right.
Yeah,
well, he also turns and becomes like part of the good guy team relatively early in the movie as well. So it's like a weird
kind
mishmash.
of without warning. It just kind of happens, or he's like, "Well, I'm on your side now. Let's get going."
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And
his turn is like
very
quick.
This is where the kids are like, "We decided we want to live with you forever," and Dolly's like, "That's great, but there are legal procedures in place for this kind of thing."
Yeah, she's like, "I can't just like do that. That's not how any of this works."
And the kids are like, "We knew you'd abandon us. We're out of here, lady." And I was like,
yeah.
"Well, no, like, kid, she's right. Like, you don't just decide that, and the world says it's okay. You're children."
It's not a lie. It's the truth. She can't just do that.
And then the sheriff somehow is able to come arrest the children.
Yeah, it's really very weird that he's arresting them. Although they do take the kids to the evil boarding house for wayward teens or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's a children's home run by 2 women who hate children, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's a classic kids movie deal, though.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like Miss Trunchbull.
The other problem that I have with this is the young deputy cop is hauling one of these kids out of the house, and he's like, "What we have here is a failure to communicate." And I'm like, why are you quoting Cool Hand Luke at this child? And why are you quoting Cool Hand Luke at a different movie?
Yeah, it's very bizarre. When Dolly like stands in the way and like gently brushes one of the cops, the sheriff is like, "Are you assaulting an officer? It'll be a pleasure to take you in." And I was just...
And then she punches him in the gut. It's awesome.
Because I was like, "Oh, Dolly, why didn't you hit him here?" It's because she saved it to hit him before she gets in the car. So the kids could see. We get a poison apple pie because this is Snow White and the 7 Dwarves, kind of. The sheriff tries once again to assault Dolly Parton. And then...
He brings a jug of moonshine and some cups into her cell as if it's going to be like a romantic rendezvous.
He walks in the room and she literally pulls the 2 cots together to form a barrier so he can't come any closer.
Yes, she's the best.
And then the witch woman is disguised as an old lady because this is Snow White.
Yep.
To deliver a poison apple pie to Dolly Parton. And I was like, I don't understand why we didn't lean into this Snow White thing more. Like, it didn't commit enough to any point that it tried to make, and that's what bums me out.
Right, like, just do Snow White and the 7 Dollies. It's fine. Like, that's a totally fine movie.
Well, hang on. Then who's Snow White if there's the 7 Dollies?
Also Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton plays all the parts.
I really want to see that, where Dolly's the witch, too.
Yeah.
Magic
the
mirror
witch can
on
be
the
someone
wall.
else. No, The witch needs to be either Lily Tomlin or Jane Fonda.
Well, then who's the other one gonna be?
The savior person.
Oh,
of
like
Snow
the
White.
prince character? That's gotta be
Yeah.
Lily Tomlin.
Well, I mean, it doesn't need to be a prince.
Well,
It
no, but I
doesn't
mean,
need
like,
to
I
be-
feel
don't
like
gender
Lily
it.
Tomlin would be the one to subvert the trope of, like, a man
Oh,
comes
yeah,
to
sure.
save you.
Jane Fonda would rather play
Oh,
the witch.
100%
That's the
she
much more
would.
fun role to play. Like, that's much more what she would want to do.
Weird sidebar you can delete if you want. On the flight home from my trip to Disney, the gentleman next to me, I plugged, because it was the flights, where the new flights where you can watch, they have options, you can watch whatever you want. So I plug my headphones in and I'm watching a thing, and I watch him fiddle with this, it's an older gentleman, fiddle with this touchscreen until he picks Jane Fonda in 5 Acts, which is an HBO series about Jane Fonda's life.
Uh-huh.
And he proceeds to watch it without subtitles and without headphones for the 2.5-hour flight.
Here's the question. Was he a huge Jane Fonda hater or a huge Jane Fonda fan?
I think a fan, because it didn't seem like it was like a huffy kind of thing.
Because there is like still a whole lot of people mad at Jane Fonda about being against the Vietnam War. Like still.
That was covered in this documentary. I looked over and saw part of that.
Yeah, I believe it. But it is like still something people are upset
I thought
about.
we all
It's
kind of
very
agreed
buck
that the
wild to
Vietnam
me.
War wasn't a good thing at this point.
Regardless of your feelings about the war, it was a long ass time ago. Why do you still feel betrayed by
was 60
this?
years ago at this
Get
point.
over it.
Right?
Yeah. Like, no, 70s.
Oh, okay. So 40 to 50.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I was just like so confused by this gentleman watching a 5-hour Jane Fonda documentary
On a 2-hour flight.
on a
mind you.
2.5-hour flight with no subtitles and no headphones. So he was just watching. It was bizarre.
Maybe he's like an alien and he just like thought that you had to put something on the screen. You Men in Black. You got Men in
I
Black.
did. So Dolly eats the pie, and I totally thought she wasn't. I was like, "Is this really what this movie's gonna? Is this movie just gonna become Snow White?"
Yeah, no, it's like there's a payoff for the Snow White thing shortly that I was like, oh man, this is actually Snow White, except
Yeah.
that it wasn't.
So yeah, Dolly eats the pie and falls asleep, and the witch disappears. Mountain Man shows up with the oldest kid.
Wait, hold on. So this witch shows up with a whole pie, and I really need to talk about this for a minute, because it's like, she shows up and she's like, here, I brought you some silverware to eat this pie with. But it's not like plates. It's like a knife and a fork and a spoon and a napkin. And then she has a whole pie and she's can't figure out how to put it through the bars, which is definitely a problem they figured out on the set and had to deal with. Because they like vertically lift, they go to like a vertical tilt on the pie to put it through the bars. And the whole time I'm like, if this was an actual pie and not a movie prop, it would just splurt out of this pan.
I was like, yeah, there's like, because it's not like a sealed. If it was a fully sealed pie, I'd give it to you. But it's like barely got a lattice. It's not. It doesn't even have lattice work on top.
Right.
It just has some like a pastry decoration on top.
Exactly. And like, I've seen Dolly Parton. She is not a woman who is eating a whole pie, right? Like, this is not
that I'm aware of.
Yeah, like, this is like a sad person in jail's snack, probably. But for Dolly Parton, this
Or
is
last
ridiculous.
meal.
Yeah, but for Dolly Parton, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, you bring her a slice.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Maybe
you
some ice
cut
cream.
her a slice, and like you hand the plate through the bars, and then you put the slice on the pie server through the bars onto her plate. You're not handing her a whole ass pie.
I agree with that.
She's just gonna sit in her jail cell and crush a whole pie. Like, come on, this is not me.
Although I would.
This is not me on an average Tuesday. This is Dolly Parton.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way Dolly with that waste that we've seen
No,
is putting away a whole
No.
pie. But
So-
she takes a bite and
yeah.
instantly falls asleep. Like an angel. And this is where the mountain man's horse is like fired up with like nitro boost.
Yes.
Because he hooks the grappling hook from earlier to the bars of the jail window, and then like ties it to his horse and is like, hoof it. And I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna pull off a bar and he's gonna they're gonna shimmy the kid through or whatever. No, the horse pulls down the wall.
Yes.
With the window attached.
Yes. I thought the bars were gonna pop out of the thing, but no. It's like,
Yeah, like a Lego.
over the top ridiculous.
And so they all climb in. They see Dolly Parton there asleep. And this is where they all make the connection that it is Snow White, which weirded me out that people could make that connection in the movie that is Snow White. And he's like, I got it. And he kisses her. And he's like, didn't work. I'm out of options.
And he actually says, go ahead, Prince Charming. Dan Hedaya says it to him. And then the sad orphan boy is like, Miss Dolly Parton, I sure wish you would be my mama. And she like flutters awake and is like,
no, it's a healing tear. Because when kisses don't work, it's always a healing tear.
I missed that part. Okay, so he cries.
Yeah, his tear falls like right onto her cheek, and it wakes her up.
I totally missed that.
Oh yeah, and so they go to escape, and the witch shows up again.
And Dolly just like stands there, knowing this woman is a real witch who put her to sleep with a poison pie, just stands there and is like, not today, witch.
Yeah,
I'm going to dispel you with the power of song.
I wish it had been the power of song, because instead she tricks the witch, because she's like,
she Tom Sawyer's her.
Like, you're white, like your magic isn't strong enough, white witch. And she's like, well, I guess yours wasn't either, because I'm awake. And I was like, Dolly's just shading this actual witch.
Yes.
And there's nothing to stop this. Like, we don't know that the witch can't just, like, lightning bolt from her fingertips kill Dolly Parton.
Or turn her into a frog, or, like, any number of evil things. Just stop her heart cold.
Would this movie have been better if the witch was played by Stevie Nicks?
I mean, yes, but here's my question. Would this movie have been better if the turn that happened right now was we discover that Dolly Parton is also a witch?
I thought it was coming, basically.
Like, the pie awakened her abilities?
Yeah, she was like, I've been hiding it this whole time. Zap, zap, zap.
Oh, I was thinking more like she didn't even know it, but now it's like, wait a minute, the power is in me.
I'm picturing she, like, grabs the neck of her guitar and pulls it off, and there's a wand hidden in there, like Malfoy's walking stick. Like the part with the tuning thing. This is just the handle for her wand.
I dig it.
I'm into that. So
she Tom Sawyer's the witch instead, which is the stupidest.
Because she talks for like 3 full minutes about how good this pie was. She's like, I said this pie was so good. Didn't I say it, boys? I said it, boys.
And Dan Hedaya like, she won't shut up about it, which it's light reading there is really good.
I'm tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
And she's like, so if I'm going to die, I want to try this pie one last time. I guess you're too stupid to have made this pie work right. But what did you put in it? Because I guess you're too dumb to have put it right. And the witch is like, just shut up and give me this pie.
And meanwhile, cut to 3 minutes ago, Dolly took a bite of this pie and was like, it's so bitter. And then
she was like
the witch forgot that?
Bitter.
The witch forgot that part, I guess.
She did, because the witch takes a bite and instantly... So it's supposed to put you to sleep because this is Snow White.
Right.
The witch looks like she dies.
Yes.
Because she has like claw hands like that scene in Haunting of Hill House, the original. Is it that one or the other one?
You're talking about the House on Haunted Hill with...
That one. There's that scary woman who looks like this and then glides out of the room.
Yes, the Vincent Price movie from the 50s. Yes.
Yes. She has like these her hands are clawed out and she's like, I'll get you when I wake up. And then collapses.
No,
but her hands are still
says,
like that.
Dolly says, that's going to be a long time. Now let me help you sit down. And like lays her body into the mattress as she conks out. It's all
no, she said, I remember she says, when I wake up, she's like, we'll both be old and gray.
Yeah.
Let's get you seated.
Yes, she like just totally lays it down her corpse at that point. It's ridiculous.
And they leave while the woman still has claw. Because I was waiting for the hands to collapse and the woman to be like,
yeah,
no. But no, they stay solid. She has rigor mortis.
Yeah, and by claw hands, you mean that they're like human hands in a clawed state, not that her hands became claws. I know. I'm just clarifying for the people who are listening to this and probably haven't watched this movie. They're like in a claw shape, not that her hands became literal claws.
I guess considering the movie picture that we've painted, anything could have happened.
Exactly.
So they go
also,
to save
wait. No. Then the sheriff shows up with the deputy.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
Oh, okay.
The sheriff comes in and his deputy's just sitting there in the jail cell looking like, I can't explain what's happened in this room right now.
Yes.
There's a pie on the floor. The town witch is asleep on a cot and so Dolly Parton. The wall is missing. Like I don't know where to start.
And there's a horse
reports.
just chilling outside next to this wall.
Like, what report should I write first?
Yes, this is going to be a tough one to categorize.
So the sheriff comes in and he's like, Dolly escaped, but she's going to the orphanage. And it's like, hey, that's what we're going to focus on right now?
He also says, whatever you do, don't wake that woman up. So they're just going to leave the witch asleep in the jail cell.
Well, wouldn't you? She terrorizes the bar.
I just mean, like, is the follow-up to this the part where they disappear her? Because that's what I think.
No, where the witch wakes up and goes after Dolly and the kids.
Well, but
that's the sequel.
But
it's a Halloween special.
I think the sheriff, like, tries to bury her alive.
Oh.
To get out of this.
I'm here for that.
He just, like, digs a big hole and fills it in.
I don't know where she went, everybody, but she's gone.
So, yes, now they go to the evil ladies' boarding house for children, and they try to break the kids out.
And so they're like, they had sent Dan Hedaya in there as a social worker, and they saw right through him, but he was still able to figure out all the information. And they send him back again. So when he goes back a second time, they're like, what are you doing back here? You're fake. And he's like, yeah, but Dolly Parton's here, and she wants to give the kids some Christmas cheer.
And at this point, they're like, oh, okay, that seems fine, even though just like minutes ago you tried to break in here.
And so they're like, fine, we'll let you see the children one at a time. And I was like, that's a weird stipulation.
Yes.
For non-suspicious people.
And I guess they knew the children would just overwhelm them with their power of 7.
Yeah. Well, so do you think there's other kids in this orphanage?
No.
Okay, because I was like, I guess these kids left, and the ladies were like, oh, thank God, we don't have to do any work.
No, but I think they, like, want the money from keeping them around.
Oh, that's true. So they go upstairs. So while Dolly and Mountain Dan distract the older ladies with one of the kids, Dan Hedaya and the oldest child go upstairs, and they find where the kids are being locked in a room. Like, what if there's a fire?
Yes. They're dead. They're dead. Tiny charred children.
And so Mountain Dan overpowers both of these older women with like one hand. He's just like, scoop. Yeah,
he grabs them both from behind in like a bear hug and sits down holding them in his lap and is like, tell Santa what you wish for.
It's a real good, it's a great like Batman pun moment. So they unlock the door, let the kids out, throw the women inside, and lock the door again. And they're like, deuces. And they all pile in Santa's sleigh to drive away, and the sheriff stops them and I guess decides that this has to be put on trial tonight.
Yes. It's a real kangaroo court situation.
He wakes up Judge John Ritter at like
That's literally what I called him. I mean, of course, that's who it is, but just it was funny that literally I was like, Judge John Ritter, hey, bud, how you doing?
He's like, it's 4 a.m. and I don't know why the hell why am I here, guys?
He's mad at everyone.
And so, of course he doesn't give a shit about this trial, you sheriff. It's 4 a.m. and this trial doesn't mean anything. So he's like,
it's 4 a.m. on Christmas.
Oh, it's Christmas Day now.
Yes.
Right.
It is specifically Christmas Day.
He's like, I have 3 more bikes to put together at home. What am I doing here?
Molly Monahan's not going to be riding anything if I don't get over there.
Look, the more important trial is the trial of Mary Steenburgen in the next town over, and I have to go preside over that case.
If you haven't heard our One Magic Christmas episode, I highly encourage you. It's one of my all-time favorites.
And don't trust the box art for One Magic Christmas that Disney has on their website, because they sell the movie still on their Shop Disney website.
Yeah, of course they do. So, it turns out Lee Majors is a lawyer, and he like the reason he became a mountain man is like just to get away from big city lawyer in life, and so he's just like he knows the law and that the sleigh doesn't count as Grand Theft Auto.
Which is probably why he agreed to take it, but that wasn't really clear.
Right.
And so Dolly's like, I'd like to be granted custody of these children. And he's like, okay, cool, but these are like 7 kids?
Yeah.
And you're one woman?
Yes.
Are we sure we're doing this?
And then all the kids one by one step up to say how, like, she's the best mom in the whole world. And I don't want to be a dick here, but these are not the appropriate people to ask this question of.
No, not at all.
They do not have...
They don't have a reference point.
Exactly. But then also, he, like, he verbally bitch slaps this sheriff to the point where he's like, now why don't you show these poor little orphans how a good sheriff sits down? That's right. Sit down. Go ahead. You can do it. And it was like really
mean. It gets real weird, like dominatrix.
Yes.
Like dog handler.
It's a little kinky.
And I was like, what's happening here? What do you two do on the weekends? So John Ritter appoints Dolly the mother, and that the orphanage is going to shut down because those women shouldn't be running an orphanage.
Of course not.
And I can't tell if the women are relieved or offended.
I can't tell either. Like, they seem relieved at not having to do this anymore, but also, like...
offended at the implication that they shouldn't be running an orphanage.
Right. Like, how dare you impugn
Which they
us?
shouldn't be.
Right, no, they're evil. And then also Dan Hedaya chimes in on this whole, like, everyone's like, oh, here's why Dolly should have the kids, and Lee Majors gets in on it, and then Dan Hedaya's like, they also got a new uncle, and I'm like, no, wait a second here. Wait a second here. Are you moving to this town? What is the situation going to be with these children? Like, this would be the equivalent of...
I assumed they were going to go live in Dolly's mansion in LA.
This is the equivalent of if Ariana Grande was like...
Okay, I'm on board.
I went home for Christmas. I discovered 7 orphan children. I'm marrying a man I met in the woods while I was home for Christmas immediately. Oh, and also I have 7 kids now. Like, people would be losing their minds.
But apparently people don't know who the hell Dolly Parton's character is in this movie.
Well,
so is it like Ariana Grande?
I think so. I think this is just a small backwoods town where they're like, who? Ariana what? Is that some kind of coffee drink?
How dare you? Thank You Next is a bop and an anthem.
So anyway, we have a big, like, Christmas ending. Like, they sing songs and they're happy, and then they take, like, a group Christmas photo.
They decorate for Christmas. And
You almost said Halloween.
I can't help it. I love Halloween.
So yeah, would you recommend this? I'm very curious. What
I
your answer
would
is.
because it's so banana pants.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No.
And it's not completely thought through.
No.
But it is enjoyable. Like, it's not bad. It's just weird.
I think this is much like the other times where it's like, well, we skated by on Dolly Parton's charm again. Like, she's a very charming woman, and that's what it is. This is by far the worst of the Dolly Parton things we've watched.
Well, we only watched 9 to 5. What was the other one?
Oh, yes, we
No,
did.
because we haven't
Burt Reynolds. One, Best Little Whorehouse in
Oh,
Texas.
Best Little Whorehouse.
Come on, get out of here.
You're right.
I genuinely like both.
My
of
brain
those.
went to Steel Magnolias. I was like, we have not watched Steel Magnolias yet.
No. Best Little Whorehouse. She is great in both of those things. She's very charming here, but this movie is just, like, ridiculously weird. It's such a bizarre
I would
movie.
agree that this is the worst of the 3 Dolly movies we watched.
Yeah, I guess if you're really looking for, like, bananas crazy Christmas, this will do it for you. But it is truly bizarre and really not very good.
See, for me, the bizarreness is what makes it good.
Yeah, I think
Like, that's what, like, I find fun and enjoyable.
I think a lot of my friends would be like, "Why are you making me watch this?" Yeah, so that was Smoky Mountain Christmas, starring the one and only Miss Dolly Parton.
God bless Dolly.
Yeah, I just recently watched a video of her lighting the tree at Dollywood for the holiday season this year, and they had her come out and, like, do like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, turn the tree on. But the way they had it set up, where, like, she was facing the tree, so everyone in the crowd was looking at Dolly with their backs to the tree, and she's like, 3, 2, 1, happy holidays, blah blah blah. And no one turns around because, of course, they're all looking at Dolly Parton. And so she has to be like, everybody look at the tree. Look at the tree. And it's
I
just...
have to watch this video.
It's like, whoever set this up was smart in that they were like, we can't have Dolly Parton, like, walk through a crowd of people, turn it on, and then walk back out. Like, she needs to, like, open a door, come out, and go back through a door when she's done. Very smart. But the way that it's set up is such that, like, normally when someone lights the Christmas tree, they're standing in front of it.
Next to the Christmas
tree. Yeah,
tree.
exactly. So it's like 3, 2, 1, boom, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. So yeah, it's really, really a hoot. She's also wearing this, like, incredible skin tight silver and fur thing that's just like a hoot.
I love her wardrobe so much.
Yes. So I recommend that in addition, or more than this movie probably.
She was interviewed for Life magazine, People magazine, some magazine that my job gets for the front office area, for the front area.
Yeah.
Where she talks about how she wakes up at 3 a.m. almost every day.
Wow.
Yeah. She's like, I sleep maybe 4 or 5 hours a night. I can sleep when I'm dead. She's like, there's too much to do. There's too much that I want to get done.
Hey, I mean, I respect it. She's an incredibly hardworking person. I would never do that.
Oh, she is. And she's like, yeah, me and my husband, like, she's like, there's no photos of me and my husband that exist. That's entirely by design. We occasionally will have picnics in the woods by our house.
Yeah, no, she seems to be truly living her best life. She was just on, like, one of the talk shows talking about her husband and making, like, for an old person, a little bit off-color sexy jokes that were pretty funny. Yeah, anyway, she's great. This movie, I'm not sure I agree with that. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening to the show. If you want to get more of us, we're at dissectingthe80s.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter, at dissectthe80s on Twitter. We'd love to hear from listeners out there.
If anyone represents Dollywood, hey.
Yeah, we'll
make a video.
We
we'll
love
come visit and do a whole video.
Yeah, we've this is now our third Dolly Parton thing. If you represent Dolly or Dollywood, we can do like a special episode from Dollywood. That would be a hoot.
A media event.
Yeah,
We're down.
Yeah. So invite us to that, and we would love to come celebrate in your park. It's a pretty far drive for us, but we'll make it happen. So get at us. If you know someone at Dollywood, get us in touch. Find more of the show at Dissecting the 80s on Facebook and Dissect the 80s on Twitter. Please review the show if you haven't done that. That's a really easy way to help us spread the word. And of course, if you want more of us, it's patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. If you pledge at least $5, you will get 2 episodes immediately. We have 2 of them up there. That comes out quarterly, and there's a whole bunch of other fun stuff. So we'd love to see you join us there and celebrate all of that. We will return on New Year's Eve proper, I believe. We will be back to celebrate New Year's Eve with you. Christmas is about a week away, so Merry Christmas to a few if you celebrate it. Happy Hanukkah belatedly, and happy holidays in general.
From all of us here at Dissecting the 80s.
Yes, happy holidays to you. We hope it's wonderful. See you in 2 weeks for a New Year's Eve special, Trading Places, which celebrates a major anniversary this year.
I'm super excited to watch a really good movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice one to end on there. Good one for the final episode of the year. Thank you again so much for listening. I've been Trip Leno.
I will always be Andrew Leno.
Until New Year's Eve.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production. Ow!